here we go. Let's start the show. Ask a tranny. You find one on the street corner. She's a chick with a dick and you gotta ask her questions. So ask her a question, see what she says. You will have effectively asked a tranny. Okay, so that's this week's intro. So yeah, just pulled those cords right out of my ass. Quality stuff. Quality stuff. Thank you so much. Welcome to the Approximate Podcast. My name's Jamie French, and you are listening to our Friday show, Ask a Tranny. It's the questions and answers show. So I see the room is populated in our little chat area, so we're going to get right down to this. How's everybody doing tonight? I'm going to read some questions from the email. Let's see. First, let me acknowledge return listeners. We got our good pal Don, our radio show host that's in the room. Hey, Don, how you doing? Nice to see you. Glad you could join us. Us. It's just me today. That'll happen from time to time. Orion is actually playing a benefit gig tonight. So he's jamming hard and heavy, so he's not going to be here. And we didn't really have any other guests to bring into the room, so it's just going to be me tonight, which is appropriate because the show is called Ask a Tranny. So ask away, guys. Start sending in your questions. We're going to... I keep saying we. This is a bad habit of mine. I'm going to get right into the email questions that we have. And then I'll start paying attention to the chat room and answering you guys there. This may be a short one. I got a big day ahead of me tomorrow. A lot of production stuff that I got to do for a local band. A band that's been on the show a few times in recent episodes. The Michelle Johnson Band. She has a Black Sabbath kind of cover band that she wants to make an electronic press kit for, and she needs some video production done. And it's going to be like a whole big to-do. So after I get done here, I got to like round up all of my production gear and start going over plans and stuff and setting it all aside and packaging it up to go to her rehearsal space tomorrow to shoot what hopefully is going to be a successful little kind of performance and package that I can edit and make her happy. So we'll say it's a paying gig. So that's another reason why this show might be cut short. So anyway, let me dive into the first of our emails here. And just for everybody's edification, you can right now send in questions to approximatepodcast@gmail.com, and we'll answer them live on the show. Or you can hit up our burner line at 817-673-3704. That's 817-673-3704. And send in texts, comments, questions, anything you got. We'll address you on the show. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, let's start here. We got an email from Evan. Several questions. So good. Let's go with question one. Evan asks, has anyone you've worked with impressed as well as surprised you with something they did? Right off the top of my head, I remember being on the set of Transsexuals 2. This was a thing that I shot last year. It's on DVD. You can go to the porn stores and find it. And I remember that it was a 4-day shoot, and at the end of the 4 days, we get to the part where, it's the big orgy scene. if you guys aren't familiar with my work in porn, Transsexuals is a 6-way she-male orgy, and it kind of builds up to the big orgy part at the end of the DVD. So day 4 is when that's being shot. And to get 6 trans girls to all, like, you know, do their cum shots on time in the scene, I mean, it's kind of a chore. It's kind of a chore, and I'll tell you what, it makes the scene run long, and there is a lot of, you go in knowing that there's going to be a lot of editing involved after the fact to cut down on all the garbage footage that you're going to wind up with. So somebody that I worked with that surprised me was Cora Del Rio, a friend of mine. Any scene that I've shot for her, any scene that we've done together, she's just been amazing, a super trooper. She's just naturally a sensual, awesome person. And so at the end of this 4-day shoot on the Transsexuals 2 DVD, we're getting to the cum shots, and some people are timely and they get it done. Other people, me included, you know, I'm not perfect. I needed time to get into the proper headspace to get the kind of shot we needed. And this is where Cora surprised me. Cora took me aside and, look, I mean, this is an adult show. Let's be honest with ourselves here. She took me outside of the set. And we were shooting in a hotel. She took me outside of the effective set, which was a bedroom, and she took me into the kind of like the living room area of the room that we had, and she let me fuck her like a motherfucker. She knew right away, instinctively, that we needed to get outside of the artificial lights and sets and, you know, the whole rigmarole, and just have like a private moment to get me to where I needed to be to get the good shot. And she just did that. And of course, you know, always a pleasure, never a chore to work with Cora. And she effectively made that happen. It completely surprised me. I mean, that was basically charity on her part for me. And we did it, and we knocked it out. We got a really good scene afterwards because of it, and that surprised me because she was human for a moment. She knew what the scene needed, and she was human for a moment, and she made the scene work just by pulling me aside for a few minutes. So that was something that surprised me. In my 10 years in this adult entertainment industry, there are plenty of moments where I've been surprised, but that's just the first one that came to the top of my head. So I hope that answers your first question, Evan. Let's get to your second question. Question 2. Best soft drink to go with pizza? Oh boy, that's kind of tough for me because I'm kind of done with soft drinks. But I get what you're saying, and I know that there's like nothing that matches a good slice like a decent pop, you know? And in the days when I was drinking soda, I would say I was a Dr. Pepper person. But these days, if I'm going to have a soda with a piece of pizza at all, it's probably going to be something diet. You know, I'm lame, I'm old, I don't have that kind of fun anymore. But yeah, you know, I'd say that my deal was Dr. Pepper back in the day when I was hogging it up. I can't afford to be a hog anymore. I'm old and I'm I'm needing to lose weight. Question 3. Do you like D&D? If yes, would you like to have would you like to play a game together? Like I get D&D. I know what it is. I know how it works. I know the history behind it. I know Gary Zizak's involvement in creation of the game. Like I know about it, but I've never played it. I've just never needed to. I've been busy all of my life, and I don't have time to play games like that, which is why to this very day I'm not a gamer or anything like that. I got shit to do. Now, I appreciate it. I understand what it means to people, but I've never really played. Now, I've dated people that are way into D&D and way into the card games and way into video games. So everything I know about that world is I know it by proxy. I don't know it by firsthand. But if you're ever in town and you have some time to kill, hey, I'll be a mensch. I'll spread a board out, call some folks over. We'll put a game together, and you can teach me the finer points of what this whole D&D thing is. But yeah, it's not that I don't like it. It's just that I don't do it. So I hope that answers that question. Let's get to question 4. This is one for Orion. Well, God damn it, he's not here. But let me see if I can answer on his behalf like an asshole. Says, best type of snare drum. Oh, shit. I can kind of answer this, and next Friday, I'll let him elaborate. But I've played with him long enough to know what his favorite kind of snare drum is. I know he likes a smaller drum. He likes something that's almost a hybrid between a piccolo snare and just your regular, just basic fucking snare. He likes not a 10-inch, not a 14-inch. He'll, if he had his druthers, he'd go with something that's 12 but slightly deep and in brass. He's really in love with a brass snare that's kind of a piccolo regular snare drum hybrid. That's as much as I can say. I'm not going to speak to brands or to the finer points of the kind of snare drum he likes. He'll answer that for you, but I can say that much. So good question. Good question. We love the musician questions. For those that are just, tuning in or aren't familiar with who or what we are on this show, we're going to get a lot of musician questions because Orion and I, my normal co-host, are in a band together, and we've been playing together for nigh on 20 years. So expect musician questions because outside of the porn and outside of, just the general podcast, that's a huge part of our lives. So, okay, anyway, that out of the way. Didn't mean to run long there. There's a 5th question. Thank you. You're helping us kill time. Fucking love it. Evan says the 5th question is, okay. Oh, it looks like it's another musician question. Evan says the band I'm in are going to record a demo. They want to do it lo-fi with a portable 8-track in a rented hall. I'm not crazy about it, as I'm more used to recording studios, decent studios. I'd be happy to pay for the time, but I'm feeling it might just be better to suck it up and let them get on with it. Am I being too precious? Well, you have to base any kind of recording Okay, so here's the deal. What do the songs require? No matter what happens, as you have tenure in a band, no matter what happens, the question for everything comes down to what services the songs the best. Now, I understand your want for slightly more pristine quality. It's a brainy endeavor. But I can also understand their want for the lo-fi thing. So what you need to do is get outside of your own comfort zone and ask yourself what the actual individual songs require. Because your dumb fuck-off friends who are wasted and probably douchebags, and they're good guys, but, they're fucking assholes who don't know nothing. They may know everything because maybe they're paying attention to what the songs require more than you. You may be too caught up in the process. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying give that some thought. There's totally room to record songs in a very shitty lo-fi fashion if the song will benefit from it. And if the song won't benefit from it, then yeah, you pony up and you pay a little bit of money and you go to a decent studio, something you can afford. Or, if you have built up your own means of recording and you can do it at you got all the math right, at least, and you can record a decent sounding thing and then maybe spend a little bit of money, send it off to a mastering guy, then, go that way. Whatever way. If you want to go the pristine route, there's, good handfuls of ways to do that. But the main point is to listen to the song. Is it supposed to be shitty? Some songs are supposed to be shitty. Listen to anything by the Ramones. I don't want to hear those songs recorded well. It wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work. So sometimes you gotta let a shitty recording situation be shitty. But think about the songs, not about your personal situation. And that might help you decide which way you need to go. Okay, so let me get to... we got a PS here. Sorry. I think we're out of questions for Evan, but thank you so much for sending them in. You're making the show happen, and there's nothing better than that. We really appreciate all of our listeners. And after this, I'm going to get to the chat room, and I will totally address your guys' questions and comments. So just give me a second here. Says, P.S., don't worry about giving out my full... factors. Oh, this is something I was supposed to read in private. Sorry. Let's see. Okay. So, from now on, you know what? I'm just gonna call you Evelyn. All right. Your emails show up formatted a certain way, and I just call it the name. But this is just one episode. Nobody's going to remember this in 2 weeks. So here's what we're going to decide right now. Whenever you do send in emails, I'm just going to say Evelyn. So we won't even address the previous name. It'll be fine. Okay, don't worry about it. But thank you, again, all the same, so much for sending in your questions. I look forward. When you come in through town, you've been one of our most, if not our most loyal listener. You come through town like you said you was a couple weeks ago. Yeah, dude, totally hit me up. We'll hang out. Show me a little bit of D&D. We'll grab pizza and a Dr. Pepper just for the fuck of it. So thank you so much. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the chat room. We are 20 minutes in. Let me address the chat room, see how that goes. Turn to the phone. I know that I'm getting hit up a little bit over here on the phone. If this only lasts for another 10 to 15 minutes, then we'll kind of cut it short because I really do have a busy day tomorrow, but I don't want to fuck off the show. So let's see what we got going on here in the chat room and see if we can answer some questions here. Oh, man, is it flooded? Where to start? Give me just a second. Hey, anybody who's listening, smoke them if you got them. Give me a second here to kill a little time while I start trying to gather these questions from the chat room. Hold on. Okay, let's see here. We got some comments about the adult stuff, some funny things. You guys are funny. You guys are doing good. Yeah, no, we are all adults here, mostly. Let's see. Yeah, you have virgin ears. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to fuck off your ears. So get the fuck out of here, you fucking cunt. Let's see here. Cool, thank you. I'm sorry, we're almost there. Hold on. It's just, there's a lot to read through. Okay. Actually, we're getting a bunch of comments, and they look great. But it's a lot of support, and I appreciate that. I'm not seeing very many questions, though. So what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to turn to the burner line, and let's see if we have any questions here. No. That was some personal stuff. Excuse me. Sorry. it looks like we might have an early show. Let's see. I'm going to pull up some... I know I got some old questions from shows in the past that we didn't quite get to. So let me see if I can address those. We have... Actually, yeah, we do. We have a fresh question and a question that we kind of skirted the last time that we had a show. These come from Dawn, our good pal Dawn, who, you know what? I'm going to give you a plug again, Dawn, because you are a faithful and loyal listener. This is our friend Big Don. He works at a radio station out of Keokuk, Iowa. He works at Z93 FM, okay? And they play all the classic hits of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So you can check out his show by going to www.radiokeokuk.com. Links in the description for the spelling. And you can catch his show from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. So Big Don asks, he wanted to know how Orion and I met. Without Orion here, you're only going to get half the story. But let me see if I can give this a shot real quick. I was 19, and so this was like I'd say about 97 years ago. I was 19, and I was jamming with they were a decent band, but they really, really, really wanted to be Iron Maiden. But it was the only gig that I could land as a bass player, so I played with these guys. The name of the band was Liquid Sky, and they just were almost an Iron Maiden cover band. All their originals sounded like Iron Maiden. You could tell there was just a lot of hero worship going on in that band. And we shared a rehearsal hall with a Beatles cover band that played across the hall from us. And they had the most phenomenal drummer. We never saw the guy. We could only hear how good he was. And we would all just kind of turn to each other in secret and go, Jesus Christ, man, if we could only get this guy. Jesus, if we could only get this guy. Does anybody know No, I don't know. And we're the kind of band that we're like Spinal Tap. We just go through drummers like a motherfucker. It was a real hassle. So hearing this stellar performer across the hall would always, it was just, it was torture. It was torture knowing that somebody that good was there, but basically inaccessible, because you could tell just from the kind of band they were that they were too busy to fuck around with shitheads like us. Until one day, my band, we come in early and we sit down in a little kind of sofa area that's out in like a kind of little lounge part of the of the rehearsal space, and the Beatles band comes in while we're hanging out, and the last guy to come in is Orion. Now, I don't know if that's the drummer or not. I'm not even thinking about it. But he comes and he decides to sit down with us. And I say, hey, dude, what's up? Are you in the Beatles cover band, dude? He's like, yeah, I'm the drummer. I went, holy shit. Dude, you're the drummer for that band? You're the person making all those amazing sounds that we're hearing, that we're so jealous of? It's like, well, yeah, I guess I'm the drummer. I was like, holy shit, dude, we're kind of in trouble with drummers right now. Do you think you could maybe, I don't know, maybe next week or something, just kind of sit in? We play a few cover tunes you might know. We play this, we play that. We're this kind of band. And he said, sure. Yeah, I'll do that. Just as pleasant as can be. No rock and roll attitude or anything. Just a sweet human being. And he did. He was good to his word. He came in that next week, and just for funs, he just sat in just because I asked him to, and that's where it all started. Now, that band fell apart, but the relationship that Orion and I had forged on that first goof-off meeting lasts until this very day. So that's kind of where we got our start. I was 19. He was about 25, 24-ish. He's just a few years my senior, and that's how we met. we met on basically a goof, I was just throwing caution to the wind, hoping that this amazing person I've been hearing over the past few months would even look in our direction, and he did, and he's an awesome man for it, and both our lives have been better because of that chance meeting. So I hope that answers, Dawn. I hope that answers your question. And then you had one more question. You asked about shitty albums from bands that you love. So you say, well, what's my favorite band, and have they done anything that has just made me go, ugh, God, guys, what the fuck are you doing? My favorite bands are weirdo singer-songwriter bands. They might be giants and folks like Tom Waits and bands like XTC and your Elvis Costellos and your Ben Folds of the world. Those kind of folks. And they're all, every name that I just mentioned there are all impeccable artists. They're all impeccable bands, and all national treasures in their own right to their respective countries. So you don't get a lot of bullshit. Like, my favorite bands at their 5 is a popular band's 10, Those are the kind of bands I listen to. So it's really hard for me to pick a shitty album from a band that I love. But I've had some time to think about it. And yeah, I think there are maybe a couple of duds. So let me see. Let me think of one right off the bat. Well, I'll go to my favorite band. I'll go to They Might Be Giants. There was a period of time where They Might Be Giants kind of had a little bit of a dip. They're a band that had been together since 1982 and are still playing and going strong to this day. And when they started out, they were weird, hot shit on the college scene. And they had a lot of buzz about them. And then they were there for the early days of MTV. So the steam, they're steamrolling, they're like hip in the moment. Still weird, not mainstream, but they got a lot of traction. And it's very kinetic time for them in the early to mid 80s. And then as the later 80s and early 90s started coming along, they had kind of lost ground because it wasn't enough to just be novel. Like the early 80s MTV was all about anything flew. And they were right on top of that shit. And then when the 90s came around and rock became kind of, there were definite factions. In the late 80s, it was glam rock, heavy metal, hard rock. And it all looked a certain way. It all sounded a certain way. And then in the 90s, Kurt Cobain strummed the guitar and changed everything. And then it all became about plaid. And They Might Be Giants lost their early kind of new wave traction, and things got hairy for them. And so when you get to the kind of the mid 90s, they had lost their recording contract with Elektra Records, which was a big fucking label at the time, and they had to go totally independent, go all the way back to their independent roots with Bar None Records. Had to start their own company and do distribution through Bar None Records, and so they're basically starting from the bottom again, and they're refiguring out their place in the world, and that's where some of the weaker albums come in. I think their last brilliant effort, or their last really solid effort, was 1997's Factory Showroom. Then they had some nominal hit with the next album in 2001, called Mink Car. And then after Mink Car, something slipped, and they were really at the end of, like, what kind of band are we? And they released an album called The Spine. And The Spine was probably one of their more softer efforts, we'll say. You know, I don't want to shit on one of my favorite bands, but you listen to The Spine, and maybe not the kind of quality there. Now, not enough to let me say that, well, fuck, man, they really put a sour taste in my mouth, but you kind of felt bad for them. You listen to them, you're like, shit, something's being lost here. It's like the shine is gone, the edge is lost, and it's the worst kind of album that there can be is an album where you hear a band lose their identity and they just kind of go through the motions of what made them special. They stop being innovative and they start just kind of trying to recapture what they've been hearing about themselves over and over again over the years. And those are when the worst albums happen. There needs to be a breaking point. Either a band will fail at that point and disband, or they will have enough wherewithal to look back on that piece of shit that they just did and go, okay, guys, we need to fall in love with being in a band again. This shit's not flying. And so I think it's good. I think it's actually, shitty albums are good in a way for bands that are in there for the long haul. Because it's a crossroads. A shitty album is a crossroads, and it tests your mettle. And you either go, okay, we're done we've said everything we've had to say. Let's call it quits, guys. Or you go, you know what? No, I still love music, but we're approaching it all wrong. The next effort is going to be something. It's now fucked up my brain to where I'm inspired to do things we had never done before, and they go in a new direction. Or an enhanced direction. So yeah, I'd say that was a lot of talk about that one question, Don. I'm sorry for chewing your ear off. I mean, I know that's what we're here for, but thank you for that question. I hope that answers or gives you some kind of insight into what I think about that particular question. So it looks like, oh, hey, we're at 35 minutes. It looks like we're doing pretty good on time. I'm going to go back to the chat room because, man, you guys are lively, and I want to catch up with y'all. Here, if you're, again, I'm going to have to take a second here to read through the list. So if you got a drink up. If you got a smoke, light them up. And give me a second here just to read through the chat and see if I can answer anything else. If by chance, there's so much going on here, if by chance I do miss a question that you want answered on the show, because there's so much to read through here, please send it into the burner line, 817-673-3704, or send it to approximatepodcast@gmail.com, and then we have it on record, and I can always go back to it and address it on a further show. So don't be fucked off if I miss your question or comment in the chat room. You can always just send it to me, and we'll get to it at a later time. But so far, let's see here. Navigatorture says, Liquid Sky sounds like a Danish-Dutch adult film company. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I always hated that name. When I joined the band without realizing what their name was. I got like a contact from a friend, and they sent me a video of these guys playing live with their old bass player and a little 4-piece band. And I thought, well, shit. I mean, they sound great. It's obviously Iron Maiden stuff, but they sound great, and it's a band that I could, be, proud of playing in. They're solid. They're good. And I didn't have anything else going on. And then I said, well, who are these? What's their name? And my friend told me, well, they're called Liquid Sky. And immediately I went, and I hated the name right off the bat. Because it's this fucking stoner, hippy-dippy fucking name. The name looks like an awful tie-dye t-shirt, and I didn't like it right off the bat. And I never even asked where they got the fucking name from, because that's how little I cared. But still a solid band all the same. And the reason, most importantly, that I was able to meet Orion. So fuck it all. Worth it. Let's see here. Almost at the end here. You cover the Chumbawamba something. Oh, okay. Yeah, so Brett Wendell. Hey, how you doing, Brett? Saying hi to you. We talked about you on the last week's episode. I don't think you were there for that, but if you tune in, in fact, you left a YouTube comment that, we went back and forth on that. Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to the room. I really appreciate it, man. But you say TMBG cover of, They Might Be Giants cover of Chumbawamba's Tub Thumping was a cover that's better than the original, even if it was a shit song. Hey, absolutely right. So the thing that Brett's talking about is They Might Be Giants, the band that I was talking about with the albums and stuff. They did a one-off tune for the Onion's AV Club. And what it was the AV Club, they do this all the time, like once a year. And they make a big list of just random songs. And then they invite bands to come in and pick from the list of the songs. And whatever band gets there first picks a song, they scratch it off the list. And then that band gets to do that cover song. Well, They Might Be Giants a few years back did this AV Club thing for the Onion. And there was only like a few songs on the list. And one of the songs was Tub Thumping by, I almost said Ongo Boingo. It's not. What the fuck is the name of the band? Why can't I think of it? Chumbawamba. Another silly name. They did Chumbawamba's Tub Thumping. You know, I get knocked down and I get up again. No way ever gonna that fucking song. And killed it. Fucking killed it. They took video of it, the AV Club, and they did it in a little, it was like a little 10 by 10 room with a 4-piece band squeezed tightly in the middle and then surrounded by staff and fans that were invited to the show. So the whole thing is just a cacophony of human flesh all shouting out that, one of the biggest choruses of the 90s. And it was magical. It was nice. It was really nice to see. So yeah, Brett, I know what you're talking about there. Let's see here. Let's see. Oh yeah. Let's see. Navigatorture. I like the Weird Al polka cover of it. A huge fan of Weird Al over here. Oh, I'm like in deep with the Weird Al. Own every album. Own all the weird little fucking B-sides and side projects and stuff. Have memorized every video. Huge fan of Weird Al. It shouldn't be surprising. For those of you who know me, you've seen a few of my ventures into playing accordion. Total dork here. But yet, I've never played D&D. Go figure. Hey, a toast real quick. Thank you guys for coming out. We're about to wrap this one up, but let me give a drink to you all. Thank you guys so much for joining me here. You guys make this show happen. So, cheers. Cheers. Can't thank you enough. I'm going to end with a few plugs. We're actually doing, I thought this show would end a little sooner. We're at 41 minutes. So this is great. It's basically a full show at this point. Once we get past the 45-minute mark, that's how I count it. So let me throw a little plug out there because I'm having some trouble with something. I started a Patreon account for the next installment of the Transsexual series, Transsexuals 3. Not a bite. Nobody seems to give a shit. And I'm wondering if it's something that I should even pursue. I have a lot of different girls that are on board to do the thing, but I'm doing it completely independently, and it takes money. On the Patreon, I put the overestimate. I did the most safe number, which is $7,000. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but all it takes is individuals giving a tiny little bit. But it doesn't look like there's enough individuals to even start the campaign out. The Patreon's not going to go anywhere, but I'm doing something wrong, and I'm not sure what it is. It's either A, nobody gives a shit about the thing, and so it's just never going to be made, or B, I'm communicating it wrong, and I need to figure out what to do. But the Patreon account for Transsexuals 3 is patreon.com/Jamie French. And you go there, and then you donate whatever you want. And for folks that donate $25 or more, you get free scenes from my own personal website. It means you don't have to join up, and you can, I'll work with you. You just talk to me one-on-one through my email, and it will, get you a little something special for your donation. I tried to not make it a big, complicated thing. I'd like it to be a little bit more personal. So anything over $25, talk to me. We'll work something out. I'll make it nice for you. But we gotta spread the word around and see if the first thing is correct, that just nobody gives a shit or wants to see it. If that's the case, well, then I'll just shut the fucker down. We'll move on with other things. But I don't know. That's the big plug that I had right now, and it's kind of distressing me a little bit, but it's not a huge deal. It's just a fucking porn movie. But yeah, patreon.com/Jamie French is my big plug for tonight. We got a lot of really cool special things happening in oncoming shows. The next few weeks are going to be really cool. Go back and, like, this whole past week, we have a new episode from Orion's solo show, the 900. Check that out. He's not so funny as he is interesting to listen to. So if you want a bit of a different flavor from this show, always go check out. He's a sage advice kind of guy. And he's, sorry, I didn't mean to belch into the microphone. He's stern and intense and interesting to listen to. And then we just put out an episode of The Void, which is my solo show. Definitely check out the latest one of that, because it is a doozy. I bitch and moan for about 25 minutes all about the legal system that I'm having to deal with as I'm going through probation with the state of Texas. And it's fun. It's fun what's happening over there. Check that episode out. The Void, episode 5. And these are going to keep coming out. We're getting better at doing this. We got the Monday shows. We got the 2 journal shows that Orion and I do. And then we got this thing here. And then we're working on a special 5th show to round out the week. And I'll give you a little hint. This? What is this? What is this thing? What is this? I don't know. But it might have something to do with the show that we're putting together. And we'll see if it works. We're going to do a test run on Sunday. Post it probably next Wednesday. We'll see what happens. So, yeah, there. That's as much tease as I'm going to give you. Thank you guys so much. I think we're ready to wrap this one up. I'm going to light my cigarette, and we're going to take us out with a song. Remember, everybody in the chat room that I didn't get to address, send your stuff to 817-673-3704 or approximatepodcast@gmail.com, and we will address you on next week's show. We depend on your comments, and we appreciate them. So I'm going to light a cigarette and take us out with a song, and then we'll see you motherfuckers next week, right? And in the meantime, there's plenty of stuff to see on this YouTube page. Just go to the Approximate Podcast playlist. All episodes, all in chromatic order. Have a blast. There's a lot of binge listening and watching there. Here we go. You guys ready? Gotta get the fuck out of here? All right. I always start with GDC. Here's the C. Thank you so much for listening to Ask a Tranny. you ask a tranny? And then I answered them, and then we got through some things and killed 45 minutes worth of time, and it's now the chord's not even matching up with the thing. Ask a tranny. Good night, y'all. You have a good one.